Hello everybody and welcome to the Industry, an Esports Insider podcast where I speak to people and personalities within the esports sector. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Portuguese esports ecosystem, everything kind of about the ecosystem and some interesting developments that are happening in the scene right now. So to talk about this, I'm joined by Goncalo Luro, who is the content manager for public service broadcasting organization RTP, in particular RTP Arena, and we'll talk about that initiative a little bit in this podcast as well. But as you would probably know, we do have our own event, Esports Insider that is, in Lisbon, Portugal. Yes, it is ESI Lisbon at the MEO Arena on September 23rd to the 25th, and tickets are still available. So if you are interested in these types of conversations, especially B2B focused conversations, this is definitely the place to be, especially if you're a stakeholder in the industry, because we have conferences, we have networking opportunities, we have a range of events as well, which take place within ESI Lisbon itself. These include ESI Film Festival, ESI Hall of Fame, an all-new legal forum, which we've called Play by the Rules, which I'm really interested and excited to be learning more about that side of the esports industry, in particular just for myself. And we also have an invitation of only event called Esports Leaders. So if you are interested in anything that I've just said, do check out ESI Lisbon. You can type it in. It'll be literally one of the first things that you see on Google, and check out the tickets and see if you can join me and the likes of the other ESI team alongside some major stakeholders in the industry. So without further ado, let's jump into actually learning more about the Portuguese esports ecosystem. Gonçalo, it's a pleasure to have you on the industry to talk about, well, Portuguese esports. And I've heard that you're a little bit of an expert on Portuguese esports.
I mean, first of all, hello, and thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure being here, Tom. And I don't know, expert might be a strong word, but I've been on the esports scene for a few years now, at least I don't know, 8, 9. But yeah, professionally, I've been working in esports for 6-7 years already, so I think I might know a thing or two, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun talk, and let's go for it.
I think it's really important, actually, before we jump into the actual esports ecosystem, to talk a little bit about RTP, because I mean, without being too British, I guess, like RTP is not like a familiar name, I think, with a lot of people, especially a lot of our audience, but they are absolutely huge in Portugal. Could you explain RTP a little bit as a broadcast channel, right?
So RTP is actually the national television in Portugal, and RTP Arena, which is the gaming project, is a side. I mean, it's a side project from RTP. So it's something focused in esports, in gaming, and yeah, it's something that has been developing for around 7 to 8 years. That's how old RTP Arena is. I've been with RTP Arena for the last 5 to 6, and I mean, I've entered as a news writer. I've done content. I've done some hosting. I've done some casting on esports matches that we've broadcasted. Some matches like international tournaments from ESL, from Blast. But yeah, very recently, since the end of last year, I've been taking some roles in content managing and doing some in managing the day-to-day operations of the project. And yeah, RTP Arena. It's a broadcast project where we try to bring to the Portuguese audience esports tournaments all around the world, the national tournaments. We try to bring some content that might be interesting to our audience regarding esports. Not only the fun side, but also sometimes the more serious side, we can call it that way. And we're trying to grow the audience. We're trying to, our main focus, if I can say like that, is just make sure that the esports stars in our world, the best players, the ones that are having a bigger impact, can have the recognition they deserve. And it's not an easy task, especially given the esports scene in Portugal is kind of focused in only one game, but we'll talk about that later. And but it's a fun challenge, and I think RTP Arena, with its growing and with some years in the market already, I think we're doing a good job. It's not always easy. I mean, it's not easy because as everyone, we make mistakes, but I think those mistakes are what making us better each day. So yeah, we're happy with the project, but I think we still have a long road ahead to become even bigger and better overall. That's the big goal.
Well, before we talk into about like localized context, it's definitely a topic that I really want to talk to you about, and I think you're the perfect person to actually have that discussion about. As you said, let's jump into the actual Portuguese esports ecosystem. So we're going to take this in a few different parts. There's the more holistic business side of esports, but let's actually talk about the current player base and the fan base. Like, what is like the Portuguese esports consumer right now? Like, what games are they playing? Is it, like you said, very one-sided into one title? I'm guessing what title it is, but I'll let you say it.
So yeah, the esports ecosystem in Portugal, that's it's not something new. It's something that has been developing for long years. Some people have worked in esports for 15, 20 years, and they're still here, and that's amazing to see. But yeah, I mean, the Portuguese audience loves competing, and a lot of people love to play competitive games, esports games, more than maybe even, let's call it, normal gaming. I don't non-esports gaming. We can say like that, and yeah, it's something that has been growing a lot, and yeah, I think you're thinking about Counter-Strike because it definitely is the bigger name here in Portugal. It can be it's followed somewhat closely by FIFA in the AFC now, and but yeah, it's not even comparable to any other titles. Counter-Strike is really the king here in Portugal, and I mean, in RTP Arena we're trying to naturally cater to our head audience, and the majority of our broadcasts and content is focused on Counter-Strike, but we're trying to bring more titles, more things to the media, and we've been doing some Rocket League, which also has somewhat of a fan base in Portugal. We've done R6 recently with Blast. We've done other games like Smash Brothers and Smash Bros, and yeah, but there's no other esports in Portugal such as Counter-Strike and the occasional EAFC. So because I mean, Portugal has a really big cultural tradition in football. So I mean, it kind of translates the new generation, the actual generation, kind of translates into that, and looks forward to watch some EFC tournaments. So, but yeah, even the local tournaments, nothing compares to the Counter-Strike tournaments. I mean, the fans are there, the fans know the players, the fans want to meet the players. So yeah, it's tough to bring other esports to the Portuguese audience, but we're trying.
I think it's very interesting actually when you could ask, I think, different representatives of different country, and there is always like that one esports title that kind of reigns supreme. Yeah. Really, I mean, even in the UK at one point anyway, like Call of Duty was like a massive UK household name, right? And I guess, is that very similar, like you said, to Portugal, where it is like you said, Counter-Strike is king in that scene?
I mean, if we look into the past, like I mean, like 8-9 years in the past, League of Legends was really, really strong in Portugal. But it kind of died down a lot in the last few years. And yeah, the League of Legends scene in Portugal is not really the healthiest one, because it has no audience overall to really support it. I mean, but looking at Riot, Valorant is growing, and there's a Portuguese team doing some damage. I mean, actually they're competing in VCT, and it's not really going great so far, but they've done some damage in the past, and Valorant is on a upward trajectory. But yeah, it's really different from Counter-Strike in the way that Counter-Strike being way more open, and there's way more tournaments for players to play. And I mean, ever since saw the Portuguese team is doing really good damage internationally, and I mean, they've been in IM Cologne very recently, so in the playoffs, and they even beat FaZe to reach semifinals. Yeah, those are really the highlights, and you can see how much passionate the community is, and how much they follow. And I mean, even in events, when SO is present, when those 5 players are present, I mean, the kids, they just want to meet the players, and they want to have photos with them. They want to have some autographs, and just, I mean, I've seen some people, some kids crying even after meeting some players like Mueller, Roman, and it's incredible. It's really, really incredible that we can see those things and the passion that people have. And I mean, I'm gonna talk about football again, and I'm not really a football guy, because I rarely see football, but I can compare both of them, because I don't want to say fanatism, but it's really strong in our culture, in our culture, football, and I mean England as well. So, and we can kind of look at both of them the same way, because since it's very cultural to have a really strong connection to one team. You can see that in esports as well. And yeah, when your team wins, they're the biggest team in the world. When the team loses, yeah, they should just disband and stop playing. But I think that's part of the culture, and overall it's really great to see some of the things that are growing here in Portugal.
Would you say that then Portugal's esports ecosystem as a whole is quite it's a more of on the developing stage, as opposed to, you look at the likes of like France and Spain, for example, where they have multiple representatives across multiple different titles and rabid fan base. I mean, you only look at like Carmine Corp, for example, who have a solid, like essentially a football club like fan base.
Yeah.
Would you say that Portugal is still on that developing stage of trying to garner a kind of a solid fandom and garner kind of a more of a community engagement standpoint?
Yeah, definitely, because I mean the esports, the Portuguese esports scene has been stronger in the past, but as some other countries and as some other cultures, we've been hit with that esports winter, we can call it that way, and it was a tough time, but we're recovering, and I think that the scene is developing, and having the recognition of some international events like it happened in the past, like Blast has been two times already. ESL Lisbon is happening in a few days, at least from the time we're recording this, and I think the recognition is there. The market is slowly growing up and looking at our country as a good destination to host some events and those some things, and maybe even some talent appearing, some players appearing, and there's good players from here. Because I mean, I've been talking a lot about Counter-Strike, but there's other games that we have some really good players out there, like Apex Legends, and yeah. So the scene is here, the players are here, and I think that if the fans are here, the scene is going to grow. I mean, there's some work to be done. There's no doubt about it, and there has to be some good people working on it, and I think we have those. And the proof of that is the growth we've seen and we've achieved in the last 3 to 4 years, even after that esports winter, like I've talked about. So yeah, we've been stronger in the way that there were more partners and brands willing to enter the markets, and some of them kind of retreated after those tough years. But slowly, I think those brands and even newer ones are starting to invest and starting to do some new stuff, and I mean, just overall growing the business here in Portugal.
Do you think it's kind of the esports winter, as we call it, is like, has maybe kind of caused, yes, partners to leave, but also a change in strategy to try and find a different way, right? Because I feel like there's a lot more of a focus on like local and community right now, especially from like a country standpoint, as opposed to, I think, when the esports boom of like the pandemic and a little bit afterwards was essentially, let's get these high tier sponsors sponsoring these big teams and big events, right? Well, now it seems that there's, at least from what I've been reading, and not just Portugal but other countries, there's a lot more of an emphasis of, let's actually build something from the ground up now and make sure that there is like that steady foundation. Do you think that's correct to say, really, right now, with what's happening with Portugal in the esports scene?
I mean, yeah, because let's look at it internationally before looking at it nationally. Because if you look at the past, there was a lot more brands entering and money entering and money flowing, and everyone was like, yeah, sports is the next big thing, and we can, let's invest and let's do a lot of money in the next few years. But I mean, we know it wasn't like that. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that, and it's not all about the money. At least for us that work in esports, but for the brands that are trying to get into esports, I mean, yeah, the cold harsh truth is that it's about the money. And I mean, I invest my money in a few years. I'm only losing money, so yeah, I don't think I want to be here, and that's what happened to a lot of brands that decided to retreat. And I mean, everyone, and I mean everyone in the world, every esports orgs had to adapt to that and see other ways of getting revenue in the in their business. So I mean, if this is not, I mean, we have some big names international like Nate Shot from Under Thieves saying that if they would start again Under Thieves, esports would not be the main focus. They will probably not even invest in esports. So, I mean, coming from Nate Shot, that's a really big thing to say, and it made everyone look at esports a different way. So, how can we make sure this is profitable? How can we make sure that this is at least workable in the next few years, and to make sure that it doesn't fail, to make sure that I'm not just throwing money into the air and burning money, and just make sure that even if I mean, my goal might be not even making a lot of money. I just want to make sure that I just want to construct something and build something that can pay itself. And yeah, so we've been looking at different strategies. Content is one big strategy that some brands are adopting. And I mean, I honestly, this has been talked about for the last few years already, and I think that there's still a big emphasis on that. Is that content might be the next is the thing that you have to go towards. I mean, if you have let's talk about professional teams. You have some players. You have to somehow monetize those players. Those players can, I mean, maybe competitively that might be that would be the best approach. Just have the players focusing 100% on the game and playing and getting the best results. But it's been done, and it's proven that that's not really profitable for any esports org. So trying to find other ways for those players to be profitable while still making sure that they have enough time to practice and enough time to develop as a team, it's really, really important. And I think that's currently that's still one of the biggest challenge some esports orgs have to deal with. And I mean, that happens internationally and even nationally. And I think, and we've been better in Portugal in the past because we've been we had more teams that more esports orgs that had the capacity to have like a professional environment. And nowadays, if you look at it, I mean, you have only two, and that's already good in the moment, because you have you have Rhino, and those are two of the teams that can provide their players some good support to make sure they only focus on that. But you have some other big names in the country, but they kind of retreated in the last few years because I mean, it's a business and it wasn't booming like I said. So yeah, I think slowly we're getting there, and having some international presence like Saw and Rhino are having at the moment. So Saw in the way bigger level at the moment, and hopefully Rhino can get close in the next few months, and that is definitely going to help, because it's going to bring some more international eyes to our scene, and that might help developing it, and hopefully we can have some more, not only teams but more people, more workplaces created around these sports. And yeah, I think we're going in the right way, but I fear that path is still kind of a long one to go.
Yeah, and I guess alongside like the sponsorship standpoint, as you've mentioned with partners, like another important facet in like the development of a scene is the audience, right? And creating a loyal fan base and creating like loyal fans which go to it, which is why I personally seen a lot of localized content start to come out. And obviously RTP are one of the ones who are doing it for Portugal. Like how how important is it actually to create localized esports broadcasts? Because I guess for me, there's a little bit of a privilege in the sense of that a lot of English broadcasts are naturally English language speaking, right? But not every other country speaks English, and you need other local languages to connect to that audience, right?
Yeah. That's one of the big goals in RTP is trying to get more localized content, esports content, whether that's national or international content, being broadcasted in Portugal. Because, like you said, not everyone speaks English, and I mean, if there, and not only that, maybe if someone talks English, maybe they like that connection to a Portuguese broadcast, to Portuguese people that are working on it. So it's, I mean, we can look at we can be really cold and look at our numbers, and yeah, that's definitely growing, and RTP Arena has been growing every year since the beginning, and that just proves that people want this kind of content. People want Portuguese content and localized content. I mean, let's say we're broadcasting a tournament, and an international tournament, and I have the English stream to choose and the Portuguese stream to choose. I mean, we've seen in the last few years that way more people are starting to choose the localized stream to watch it, because the quality is improving, not only ours but other broadcasters as well. The quality is improving, the overall production is developing, and that's a really big thing, because the more than the I'm not saying, maybe not more, but maybe as important as the players is, like you said, is the community. And there's no point in trying to cultivate this if there's no community to watch you. And that's one of the reasons why Counter-Strike is one of the bigger investments in Portugal, because it's where the community is. We've tried a lot more other esports, and I mean, some of them just have no, unfortunately, just at least for the moment, have no big traction in Portugal. So I mean, I think we can help with that. I think RTP kind of has the no, I don't want to say obligation, but as we should try to cultivate more esports communities, more gaming communities in Portugal. I think we're doing that, definitely. But yeah, for a scene to grow, you need a community behind it, and that's why, I mean, you've talked about France and other countries where they have like a fandom that is kind of comparable to even football and other traditional sports. So I think that's the way, and I think slowly things are approaching a similar path and in a similar structure to that. And yeah, the proof is that every time a Portuguese team or player is out there playing in international tournaments, no matter the esports, the audience comes to us and watches the localized stream, because I mean, everyone's rooting for the same in here. Everyone's rooting for the players and for our players to do good out there. So I mean, so yeah, so trying together for that audience, for that local audience, is really important. It's not only in Portugal, but I mean, I think every country has to try to do that. I mean, broadcasters in every country has to try to do that, because that's the only way they're going to, or that's one of the only ways that they're going to get these sports in the more mainstream media.
Yeah, I think another one outside of Portugal is like, you look at like Southeast Asia, right? Like they are like heavily localized in terms of like all of their content is completely localized to their audience, and like you said, we're seeing it everywhere. Outside of kind of then the local aspect is also what is quite important, I think, to building, at least from a region and esports ecosystem, is hosting events, right? And Portugal has hosted events, but I'm guessing there'll be a willingness to want to host